It is official. Colby Covington has ducked Ian Machado Garry, and I tried to tell you guys months ago. Some of you guys listen, but I got a lot of backlash. I told you guys Colby Covington is not going to fight Ian Machado Garry, and that all this trash talk was just for him to try to gain some fans back, all to just then duck Garry and claim that Garry didn't want to fight him. And that is what he's doing in his latest interview that we're going to take a look at in this video. We're going to take a look at multiple clips of this interview. And I'm not exaggerating when I say this was one of the most pathetic interviews I've ever seen from Colby Covington. And not only pathetic from Colby Covington, these guys at Submission Radio are no more than basically propagandists. They're no more than glorified publicists for a lot of these fighters. And it's not just them. It's a lot of interviewers out there nowadays, because all they do is suck up the fighters in hopes of getting access to said fighters, in hopes of getting views off said fighters. And that's why the MMA media is so broken nowadays. That's why it's full of influencer media members, because essentially the MMA media, the real MMA media, doesn't really exist when it comes to Dana White post-fight pressers and when it comes to fighter interviews. You know, Colby Covington says ridiculous stuff. There's no pushback. Jamal Hill's not even asked about his domestic violence charge in the media, in interviews, which is crazy. Conor McGregor's not asked about, you know, he did multiple interviews on his tour for his movie. And I know that's not MMA media. Some of it was MMA media. Not even asked about the charges, the NBA Finals restroom, not asked about any of that. And honestly, we have to call this stuff out, because these people essentially cosplay as media members when in reality, all they're doing is using social media to promote fighters that they have friendships with in return for getting views, and indirectly or really directly putting money in their pocket. And that's exactly what's going on with the channel that we're going to look at today, at least in the case of Colby Covington, which is Submission Radio. I will link this full interview down in the description if you want to go check it out. You want to go subscribe to their channel, support their channel. This is nothing personal. I just have to call this out because when I sat through this interview, I was disgusted. There was no pushback. There was nothing but deep throating of Colby Covington continuously throughout the interview. And I understand, okay, these guys aren't trying to be hard-hitting media members, but this shit is just embarrassing. When you have a guy basically lying and misrepresenting stuff, and you don't press him at all, and you even co-sign a lot of it, and you're just giggling like a little schoolgirl while he says his cheesy lines, and you don't ask any questions that the fans actually want to know. Instead, you're just a propaganda, you know, mouthpiece for the guy. It's disgusting, it's despicable, and it's embarrassing. And again, it's nothing personal. These guys got to make money, but to basically run your entire brand as media as just, oh, we just have these fun interviews and we don't ask anything, we don't push back, when, you know, a guy is repeatedly harassing a woman who does not even fight because that's the wife of a fighter he does not like. That didn't happen too much in this specific interview, but it's happened in the past. And you know what's crazy? What's crazy to me is these guys aren't even getting that many views off of it. Colby Covington claims to be this huge draw, and I don't think YouTube views are indicative of drawing power, but there's something to be said for views in general on social media. When you're getting literally no views, you know, most likely you're not a pay-per-view star. If you're getting a lot of views, that doesn't mean you're guaranteed to be a pay-per-view star. But like, I was looking at some of their recent interviews with Colby. We're looking at 16,000 views in 18 hours for the interview that we're going to look at today. We're looking at 70K for the interview they did last month. We're looking at 40K for the one they did in the immediate aftermath of the fight. I mean, look at those numbers. Horrific. So to be a propaganda mouthpiece for a guy who doesn't even get them views. But let's jump right into the interview. I just had to have that critique right off the jump, because it was, I had to watch this interview through like 3 or 4 sittings because it was so disgusting. And one last thing before we actually get into the interview. I'm sorry for taking so long with this prologue, but I told you guys months ago that Colby Covington did not want to fight Ian Machado Garry. I told you that he was ducking him. People were like, no, he's calling out Garry. He's calling him out. What I told you from the beginning it looks like 100% true. This guy put unreasonable expectations and requests towards Garry so that he could then say Garry ducked him or Garry didn't want to fight him. The only reason he attacked Garry is because Colby is so unlikable. He was looking around, okay, where's the low-hanging fruit? Who can I attack that will get some fans back on my side? And that's what he did. He attacked Garry, who was public enemy number one. And the fans got behind it. And whether you like Garry, like Colby, hate Colby, I was trying to tell you, don't get those expectations too high. Go back and check my videos from months ago. I told you he was ducking. He's ducking. He is terrified of fighting Ian Machado Garry. He is terrified of losing to him. And this interview proves it. But let's start off with just the very beginning of the interview. I wanted to plug them. I wanted to put their little logo on the screen here. But let's see how they start off the interview. I mean, seriously, talk about deep throating Colby Covington. And it's just embarrassing. I understand they don't have to be rude to the guy. But seriously, can you suck him off even more? Let's listen to this intro.
Right, guys, our next guest needs very little introduction. One of the baddest welterweights in the world with wins over legends like Robbie Lawler, Tyron Woodley, and many, many more. He joins us to give us an update on what's next. It's always a pleasure to welcome Colby Chaos Covington back to Submission Radio. Colby, welcome to the show, man. You're looking good, dude. Look at this. The chain's looking sharp. Thanks for joining us on the program.
Again, that's just to show you these guys are propagandists. I think his name's Casper. And his name's Dennis. These guys aren't media members. These guys don't do any real interviews. These guys are just propagandists. They just try to find guys who they can be friendly with and use them for views, essentially. And this isn't even working out too well because Colby Covington doesn't even get YouTube views, at least not anymore. At least not on many occasions. At least not the last 3 interviews they did with him. Because nobody cares for him after that shit-stained performance he put on against Leon Edwards after sitting out for years waiting for that. But let's jump in right to the excuses from Colby. Because he gets into them literally 1 minute in, and he's basically saying he's not healthy and he's not fighting Garry, basically. That's the gist of it. Let's listen to it.
It's been a little bit slower process than I initially intended or thought that it was going to be. It was broken 3 different places in the medial cuneiform bone, which is the midfoot fracture. So, it's been a slow process. Now the big thing is getting the strength back in my left leg because, I was in a walking boot for 12 to 14 weeks. So now there's a lot of atrophy on that side. So I need to build back the strength in my calf, in my ankle. And, the bone is still healing. Like you can tell it's at the end of the healing process. But now it's about strengthening, getting the balance back, getting the strength in my.
I mean, seriously. He's still going on about this injury, and I'm not even sure this is a real injury. I still don't believe that this was a real injury. I believe this is a lie. But this is all to say there's no way I can fight at the end of June. There's no way I'm fighting Ian Machado Garry, even though I called him out on a boat that I probably rented. He goes on a little bit more. We'll listen to a little bit more.
Leg so I can really plant and not be compromised in my next fight. My next fight, I have to be 100%. That's so important to me for my legacy and my career that I go out there and show the world what I'm capable of when I'm 100%. But for them to see me at less than 100% like they did the last fight, it's unacceptable. And the fans deserve better than that. And I want to give them better than that. I want to give the UFC better than that.
So, again, making excuses for why he lost to Leon Edwards and didn't fight at all. He wasn't 100%. Otherwise, he would have beat Leon Edwards. And you aren't going to believe who he actually calls out in this interview. You probably might have already seen it online. But wait till you hear who the 2 names that he kind of calls out in this interview. Completely disgraceful. Now, let's listen to a little bit more. And again, I will link this down in the description if you want to go check out the full interview for context. Give these guys the views they want for Colby. But him talking about when he'll be ready to fight.
Yeah, so I'm just listening to the doctors. They think in the next, 4 to 6 weeks that, I should be 100% healed and have that strength back in that leg so I can plan off it and have no limitations. So, the types of things that we're.
So there you go. 4 to 6 weeks. Well, wait a second. He was talking about on a podcast like a month ago that he wanted to fight International Fight Week. Now, all of a sudden, he's not going to be healthy for 4 to 6 weeks. What does that equal? Oh, wait, he's not going to be healthy until literally the date of International Fight Week, basically. The week of International Fight Week is the week he's going to be healthy all of a sudden. I mean, this guy's pathetic. This guy is the worst of the worst because he talks all this shit and he's unwilling to back it up. He's terrified to get in there with Ian Machado Garry. He's making every excuse in the book. And there's more. There's more. He gets into actually talking about Garry here in a second. And his stipulations. Oh, my. If I had to hear him about his stipulations one more time. But He talks about Gary, the stipulations, and how Gary doesn't call the shots around here. Let's listen to that.
So much. All I gave is 3 little stipulations, boy, to Ian. Can you imagine? This kid's a spoiled little fucking entitled brat, and he's trying to act like he calls a shot as an absolute nobody who's never headlined a pay-per-view main event like myself. I've actually headlined pay-per-view main events without even a title on the line, so I've done it.
Yeah, I mean, first off, he called him Ewan. Or Eon. I can't even remember that quickly, but you can see how angry he is at even the suggestion of him fighting Gary, because Gary's a nobody. Colby is single-handedly now ruining his career. This was the one fight that could gain him some fans back, and he fumbled badly. And I know some people are going to say, I get it every time I do a video on Colby's interviews, they're like, Joey, you're just giving him what he wants attention. I understand that, and I used to have that mindset. But what this guy tries to do when he gets out there in the media, he tries to set the narrative. That's what he's trying to do. He's trying to set the narrative that then the fans can go run with. Like, hey, man, Gary should have done this. Gary should have done the 3 stipulations, even though they were all unreasonable. They were all basically impossible to achieve. Not impossible to achieve, but nobody was actually going to do it. And all of it was for the reason of not fighting Ian Machado Garry. But then I told you months ago, he was going to claim Gary ducked him, and that's essentially kind of what he gets into here, and we'll listen to more.
4 titles without a title, this and that. I've only been fighting pay-per-view main events the last 6-7 years of my career. So this little spoiled, entitled brat is coming out saying that he's calling the shots. First off, there was never a contract. If there was a contract, show me the contract, kid. Where's the contract? If you're saying these words, you come out and show it to the fan. If there never was a contract. So the thing is when the UFC calls Colby Covington Incorporated, Colby, is able to choose and do what he wants because I've earned my way in this company and I've done good business for this company where I'm allowed to call the shots. So this little kid doesn't call the shots. So
basically he said the UFC called him. When the UFC calls him, I get to decide what I want to do. And also, if there wasn't any discussion this fight, why did Gary recently say, he said something about the foot of Colby Covington. He said something about the injury to the foot of Colby. I don't remember his exact quote offhand, but he said, stop complaining about your foot and sign the contract. Because Colby's now claiming he's not healthy. He's done this throughout the course of his career. You ever notice Hamzat's talking about fighting Colby? This was a while ago, like a year and a half ago. Hamzat wants to fight Colby. Dana White wants the Colby-Hamzat fight, and Colby's radio silent. The second Hamzat books another fight, all of a sudden Colby comes out and says, Hamzat's ducking me. Hamzat didn't want to fight me. Hamzat wouldn't fight me. This guy just tries to control the narrative, and it's just a complete disgrace. And it gets even worse. I mean, I'm sickened even sitting through this. So be happy you guys only get to see the highlights, or the lowlights, really. Let's listen to some more of it. Him talking about Ian Machado Garry. And I think I even might have I did leave some of the submission radio guys in here. Because, again, they're just deep-throating Colby Covington. If Colby Covington's dick was sharp, these guys would have a hole in the back of their throat. That's the level of just unbelievable ass-kissing from these dudes. Listen to this.
Moment, rankings-wise. But I'm looking at it, and I'm wondering, do you think there's...
Hold on a second. I think I started that a little bit too late. Let me put it back. Because he basically says there's such a wide margin in the rankings between Colby and Gary, which is crazy.
How hard can that be, guys?
I understand, there's a massive disparity at the moment, rankings-wise, but I'm looking at it and I'm wondering, do you think there's ever
massive disparity rankings-wise? There are a couple spots apart. I don't remember exactly what their rankings are right now, but Colby's 4 and Gary's 7 or 8, something along those lines. They're no more than a couple spots apart. Massive, this guy is now trying to do the bidding of Colby by setting that narrative. No, that's not true.
Ever a situation where Ian sort of works his way up and he's, maybe a title contender or champion or whatever the case may be, and he's worked his way up to a position where you're like, all right, now that's a fight that, I would like to do regardless of any stipulations? Or do you think this is a matter of the ship has sailed and we're just never going to see you and Ian fight?
How crazy is that? Gary to work his way up to fight Colby. And this was his way of buttering up the question for, are you ever going to fight Gary? Do you have any plans of ever fighting Gary? People want to see the Gary fight. That was his way of presenting it to Colby, but still sucking him off the entire time. Embarrassment. There's no working his way up. That is the only fight right now that makes sense for Colby. The only fight that makes sense for Colby. But let's take a look at Colby's answer to this one.
You know, the thing is, you know, I gave him that great freaking deal early on, guys. Just 3 simple stipulations. So I gave him this great deal. The next time it comes back around, that deal's not going to be so sweet. He's going to have to learn the basic principle of life. You got to learn things the hard way. So, you know, I don't know. I don't know if that shit will come back around, you know. I've said what I needed to say about him. I've said the truth and nothing but the truth and only facts about him and his relationship and his little circus gimmick that he's got going on. So,
by the way, the entire narrative behind Ian Machado Garry and his wife that Colby has portrayed, a main portion of it, he literally goes against in this very interview. In this very interview, which we're going to take a look at a little bit, you know, in the next couple clips, I think. So, but let's listen to his response. It's crazy. He doesn't want to fight Garry. He said, he didn't complete these 3 stipulations, the 3 unreasonable stipulations. That way Colby could duck him from the beginning. I told you, everyone was saying, oh, what a promo by Colby. Colby demolished Garry. No, if you actually listen to those promos or those call-outs from Colby from a month, 2 months ago, and you actually listened to them and understood the words that he was saying under no way, shape, or form am I fighting Ian Machado Garry because I am terrified of fighting Ian Machado Garry. That's essentially what he's saying.
You know, like maybe he does. I don't know, but he hasn't done it yet. He's coming off a split decision against the busboy. The kid's serving blooming onions over at Outback Steakhouse. He's not even a full-time fighter.
Jeff Neal is a better win, arguably better win than any win on Colby Covington's resume. And definitely any recent win because he doesn't have any recent wins. What's his most recent win? Oh my God. His most recent win is March 2022. Jorge Masvidal. March 2022 against the dead corpse of Jorge Masvidal. That's his last win. That's Colby's last win.
Coming off a split decision over that guy, and you're trying to act like you call the shots, and I'll do as I'm told. No, kid, you'll do as you're told. You'll do as you're told, and you'll.
Again, stumbling over his words like he always does in his little corny lines. Also, keep in mind, Colby acts like he's a big draw. Him versus Jorge Masvidal. Masvidal's a bigger draw than him. Sold under 400,000 pay-per-view buys.
You'll go sit there in the corner because you're Conor McGregor.
So, got to call him Conor McGregor because people thought that line was funny, which, okay, it's a decent line. Someone else came up with it. But he's got to keep going back to that. He's got to go back to their just regurgitating the lines that got him a little bit of applause. That just got him a little bit of applause. That's all it was there. So, let's move on to the next clip. Because the next clip is just crazy to me. It's just, he knows this isn't true. He knows this isn't true. Listen to this.
No, I didn't see that. You know, no one. The thing is no one cares about the kid.
He was asked, has Garry messaged you or have you seen anything that Gary's been posting lately? Something along those lines.
Relevant. He doesn't have any high-profile wins, guys. Like, he does nothing for my career. Why would I fight a guy like this? I go out there and beat this guy. Everybody's just going to be like, oh, he's a freaking nobody. You know, there's local jobbers on the independent circuit that are undefeated. So, oh, big deal. You took his O. He hasn't beat anybody. He's a nobody. So that's crazy to me. And this shows me, and I know people think, Joey, you just don't like Colby, blah, blah, blah. I genuinely mean this. Colby Covington is terrified of Ian Machado Garry. He is terrified of losing to Ian Machado Garry. To say he has nothing to gain, that is the only fighter right now in the welterweight division that can gain Colby Covington fans back. It's an easy target in terms of trash talk. It's an easy build-up. It's a high-profile fight. It's the biggest fight that Colby Covington can get right now. And if he gets a win, he beats an undefeated prospect who's in the top 10 of the rankings. And Colby Covington has been gifted undeserved title shots in the past. If he beats Garry, he's one more win away from a title shot. Who knows? The UFC might give him a title shot off of that. And most likely it would be on the biggest card, which would be Michael Chandler versus Conor McGregor, which is going to have millions of pay-per-view buys, if not at least 1 million pay-per-view buys. So to act like he has nothing to gain from fighting on that card and fighting a prospect in Ian Machado Garry who's proven to be a decent contender now is craziness. And it would earn him fans back, and people would love the build-up and the trash talk from Colby. And Colby knows all this. I don't think he's dumb enough to not realize that this is the biggest and best fight for his career. But you know what that relies on? One thing. And that relies on him actually performing and actually winning a fight. And he doesn't believe he can do that. And that's why he's calling for other fights
that are never going to happen, because then when the call outs that he makes in this interview, which we're going to look at in a second, when he makes those call outs, people are like, oh, he still wants to fight decent competition. And then those fights he knows are out of the realm of possibility. And then he's going to beg for like a Wonderboy Thompson fight, which he's been begging for since, last December when he lost to Leon Edwards. But let's listen to a little bit more here. We're going to move up to a part where really just debunks the entire narrative around Ian Machado Garry's wife, which I've been breaking down to you guys for literally 6 months now. But Colby Covington, his entire trash talk regarding Ian Machado Garry's wife, Layla Machado Garry, is now debunked by Colby Covington himself here. And I've been telling you guys this for 6 months now. Listen to this.
The only time he even whispers of any type of a little bit relevancy is when he attaches himself to my name. Other than that, I mean, those are birds farts that he's putting out there. No one cares about him. So I literally have more money on my neck than he's made in his whole entire career. The guy's an absolute bum. He's a nobody. I mean, this one chain right here is going to cost more than he's going to make in his next fight.
So Colby has more money than Ian Machado Garry's made in his entire career, and he's a bum, and that chain on his neck costs more than he's going to make in his next fight. I don't know that to be 100% true, but wouldn't surprise me because Ian Machado Garry's probably on his original contract. I don't know if he's gotten a new contract yet. And I've been telling you guys for a while, the UFC ain't paying these guys crazy money, especially when you're just making your way up the ranks. It's not until you really solidify yourself at the top that you really start to make any amount of money. But Colby Covington and other Ian Garry haters have made the broad claim that Layla is a gold digger and she's with Garry for his money, that he doesn't even make that much. The disclosed purse for UFC 278, or no, not 278. What was it? UFC 298 in February when Garry fought. His disclosed purse was something like $60,000. And they're acting like she's a gold digger. It just makes no sense. When you look at the facts, it just doesn't reconcile at all. And it makes no sense. And Colby admits it right there. Now, we're going to look at a couple more clips. Here's Colby just pathetically ducking Garry so badly. And again, he's trying to make the narrative like, I don't need this fight. I'm going to bigger fights. I'm going to choose who I fight. Listen to this.
Whole training camp, he's not serious about business. All he had to do was turn on the comments, show he was serious about business and do these stipulations, but he's not. So, the ship sailed and I'll fight whoever I want to fight when I want to fight. I don't need to fight on anybody's card. I had my main event pay-per-views. I don't need anybody. I'm already a superstar. I have the biggest, most famous person alive and the most famous people around, in my corner. So I don't need it.
So there he is again, being Donald Trump's Monica Lewinsky, just deep throating him. Complete embarrassment. That guy, Donald Trump, walked out on your post-fight speech when you fought for the title because you fought like a complete embarrassment. But this guy is saying, I'll fight. You can see, I think a little bit of that, you could see a little bit of frustration coming out of him there. I don't want to be an online psychiatrist, but I think a little bit of the backlash from the fans to Colby Covington is getting to him there. I'll fight. I'm a superstar. I'll fight who I want when I want, blah, blah, blah. AKA, I'm terrified of Ian Machado Garry. It all comes down to I'm terrified of Ian Machado Garry. I'm terrified of losing to him. I'm terrified of getting KO'd by him, just like I was terrified of getting finished by Leon Edwards, so I fought like an absolute scrub. When I say fight, I say that term loosely because he didn't actually fight him. But let's listen to a couple more clips. These were some of the most pathetic, hypocritical, embarrassing statements I ever heard. And people are going to be like, he plays a character. He's playing a character. When you act like this 24/7, you don't get to say, oh, I'm just playing a character here. I don't mean any of this. No, this shit is completely delusional. Listen to what he has to say here. And he's asked specifically about a fight with Belal Muhammad. Listen to what he says.
Yeah, I would like Belal. He's talked a lot of smack. I want that racist to catch a fade. He's remember the racist. He's out there, saying that I only got my title shot because of white privilege. Oh, Belal Muhammad, remember the racist. Now he's squatting on his ranking, guys. He should have to come out and fight. I think we should fight. I think that's the fight that should be next. He doesn't deserve a title fight, guys. How long?
He doesn't deserve a title fight. He's squatting on his ranking because he sat out for a year after he fought a number one contender fight where he was guaranteed a title shot, and he's on a 10-fight unbeaten streak. Colby sat out for damn near 2 years on a 1-fight win streak against the dead corpse of Jorge Masvidal and got a title shot. squatted on his ranking for a long time, ducked fights, and just got gifted a title shot out of it. I mean, this is craziness. He literally is saying he wants to fight Belal. You know why? He's turned down the Belal fight. Belal wanted this fight multiple times. Belal was offered the fight multiple times. Colby Covington did not want the fight. You know why he's calling it out now? That tells me that Leon versus Belal is almost a done deal. Because there's no way Colby's calling out Belal if there's any possibility of that fight getting made. He doesn't want that fight. He's calling out fights that aren't going to happen. So then, and again, I'm telling you guys this in advance. I can see into the future. So then when he fights somebody like Wonderboy Thompson in a couple months, he can say, well, look, I tried to get Belal. I tried to get this guy. I tried to get that guy. But, you know, none of them was working out with my time frame. And I'm a superstar. And I got to get back in there and do business for the UFC, the biggest and the best business, even though I don't sell over 400,000 pay-per-view buys against a star bigger than me. I'm telling you that's what he's going to do. And that's why I have to make these videos, because he's setting these narratives and people just regurgitate it. And you have guys like the media members here not even pushing back. But let's listen to a little bit more what he has to say about Belal.
How long has he sat out? He sat out for over a year. He's squatting on his ranking. You know, that's not right, guys. He's squatting. You know, he doesn't deserve it. What does he deserve? What has he done lately? When was his last fight?
You can tell he knows the hypocrisy. I could see it on his face. He knew the hypocrisy there. He was almost about to bust out laughing. There. This guy's an embarrassment. And we're going to look at two more clips. I don't want to make this video too long. But as his Skype connection's cutting in and out, hopefully we don't get any of that in the actual clips. I don't think I put any of the timestamps there. But again, here's him saying, basically, I'm not fighting anytime soon. I'm not fighting Gary. And makes another call out, a ridiculous call out.
You know, time frame, you know, Dana and Hunter, they've been very gracious with me. They let me get healthy. You know, they don't want to rush me out there at anything less than 100%, because, you know, we want to give the business and the company and the fans the biggest and best show possible. So
they don't want to rush me out there in anything less than 100%. He's not fighting Gary, guys. He sold you wolf tickets. I tried to tell you months ago. He sold you wolf tickets.
We can only do that when I'm 100%. So, you know, we're just working through this injury, and they said, you know, just like they told me a million times that, you know, you've done such good business for this company, you know, you get to call the shots. So I'll call the shots of who I want to fight, when I want to fight, and, you know, we'll make the biggest and best fight happen. I want legacy fights. I think a guy like Charles Oliveira makes sense. You know, he was out there saying the other day that he wants to come up to welterweight. So I'm the king of fucking Brazil, man. Everybody knows I run that fucking country. So all the women, you know, love me. All the men in Brazil want to be like me. So Charles Oliveira, you want this fight? You want to really come up to welterweight and you want big fights? Let's see if you're about it or if you just talk.
He's calling out Charles Oliveira. He saw Charles Oliveira get out-grappled by Arman Tsarukyan, and now he's calling out Charles Oliveira because he has no intention of that fight actually happening. And if it does, he's like, well, I can win that matchup. Look what Arman just did to him. Charles Oliveira is talking about coming to welterweight to fight Conor McGregor. That's what he wants to come to welterweight for. This dude's saying I want legacy fights. What is Colby's legacy? Somebody please tell me. Ducking every fight there is, every notable fight outside of undeserved title shots. He's ducking every decent fighter that's ever been offered to him. What's his legacy? His real legacy, I'll tell you what Colby Covington's legacy is. Because he's falling out of his prime now. His legacy is ducking fighters. And his legacy is he lost to Kamaru Usman twice. Oh, damn, pat on the back, round of applause. Let's induct him into the Hall of Fame for losing to Usman twice. Once via TKO where he got his jaw broke. That's literally his legacy. And then just to prove a point, let's look at one last clip. Again, I told you guys, he's calling out names that he knows he's not going to get. And he basically says it right here. He says Charles Oliveira isn't coming to welterweight. So, again, he made a call out just to get a headline. Basically, he's trying to defer from the Ian Machado Garry fight. He's trying to take the press off of that. He doesn't want anyone associating their names together anymore because that's not happening. When Gary's next fight gets announced and it's not Colby, people are going to go after Colby a little bit. He's trying to already set up that narrative because my guess in the next 2 weeks, Machado Garry's fight is going to be announced and it's not going to be Colby because he's afraid. He's afraid.
Where I just beat him everywhere. I'm a better jiu-jitsu artist than him. I'm a better striker. I'm just a better all-around mixed martial artist. So, you know, that's why I just don't think he actually comes up and follows through with his word. I think he's all talk and he's not really going to do it. So, you know, I match up well with him and I'd love to entertain that fight. That's what I want. That's what I love.
So he's not coming up. He's not coming up to welterweight. He's all talk, which is first off crazy, just talking about Charles Oliveira like he's some scrub. This guy doesn't want to fight. I'm telling you right now, he's going to beg for like a Wonderboy Thompson fight. He's going to beg for like an MVP fight. He's going to beg for some type of favorable matchup, and he's probably going to get it because Dana White loves that Colby Covington rim jobs Donald Trump, who's Dana White's friend. He gets Dana White privilege because of that, because of his Donald Trump sycophancy. And it's a disgrace. We need to call it out. Honestly, at this point, he sold wolf tickets to the Garry fight. He doesn't want the Garry fight. That's the fight the fans wanted to see. Cut him from the organization. Doesn't have a single ranked win. Current ranked welterweight. That's how bad this guy's resume is. He hasn't won since March of 2022. He's gotten undeserved title shots. Get rid of this dude. Get rid of him. I don't want to see him fight anymore. This is just a complete disgrace. This guy is pathetic. This guy is an embarrassment. I told you from the beginning he was ducking Ian Machado Garry. I hope I'm wrong. I'm praying I'm wrong. I still think there's a small chance, a very small chance, less than 5%, that the UFC maybe forces his hand. Or maybe Colby comes to his senses and realizes, oh, this is the biggest fight that I can get right now. But you know what Colby's thinking? If I lose to Garry, my career's over. I need a bounce back win. I need a bounce back win. That's what he's thinking right now. That's where his headspace is. His confidence is gone. His will to compete against a alpha male like Ian Machado Garry, when he knows deep down that he's a beta male. He just knows that he's going to get finished by Ian Machado Garry. He doesn't want that smoke. He just wants to attack the low-hanging fruit, public enemy number one, Ian Garry, in an attempt to get fans on his side, and then he's going to duck the fight. He's going to claim that Garry ducked him by not performing these 3 stipulations. End of story. Now he's calling out Belal, which is not going to happen. He's calling out Oliveira, which is not going to happen. And then he's going to be like, oh, I just settled on Wonderboy Thompson. Sorry, guys. This is what was available for me. He's been talking a lot of crap. It's horseshit. It's an embarrassment. Let me know what you guys think down in the comments. Share the video, like the video, subscribe to the channel, and thank you so much for watching.